Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Adam Hancock once again, and in today's video I want to talk about not being cookie cutter in a sea of platted out new construction, which is basically the majority of the market when it comes to relocation buyers trying to come into this state and navigate the housing market. And the thought is that I think there is a lot of merits, and most people would agree there's merits to new, whether that's a master plan, that's just a single new neighborhood, it's infrastructure, there's sidewalks, it's parks, green space, and it's somewhat controlled. You might not want every single rule being like thrown upon you in a neighborhood and people telling you what to do and what color to paint your trash cans, but you might also not want you to live one way and your neighbor to live materially different. There's good that comes from that. But what I'm finding a lot as of late, that people are reaching out and saying like, yes, I get that, but we're not used to this kind of thing. Like you're from Canada or California, you're from the urban Northeast especially. What we view as normalcy here is not necessarily the case. People want a little character. And they, even if it's new construction, is like, how can I get a newer house and also gain character? And even if that's shoved into a Florida box, right? Things aren't going to be perfect. You're not going to get an elegant, like mid-century looking new construction house in a gated neighborhood with one builder. But I think there's shades of gray to that. So today I want to attack that topic basically. And I do want to talk about 5 specific neighborhoods, then probably more. But more importantly, I think the most helpful would be to talk about concepts, ways to go about checking most of these boxes for you while also getting to the area you want to live in and also getting potentially a new construction house on top of it. I hope you enjoy it. If my team and I can assist you with your physical relocation to Southwest Florida, please consider reaching out. And without further ado, let's hop in. Okay, number 1 on my list, we are going to go with small boutique custom builder. And the idea here is simply that you're choosing the house over everything. I personally think in the right environment, you can force character. At least in a small part, if you define character as variety, everything doesn't look the same. It's the power of choice. There's a builder called Sam Rogers. They go into a master plan area that has a bunch of other neighborhoods. That's why people are kind of attracted to it. Go to one area, it's kind of like create a mini town. Everybody's kind of going right. But if you go left, you have Grand Place. Sam Rogers building a low density amount of custom home in like kind of a boutique environment. So you get in there, it feels more unique than the rest of it, and then people feel like they're taking a little bit more of a chance. But the reason that you would choose Grand Place is because you physically cannot get what you want in any of those other places or most of the other places. So you're going after the house. And if you get into an environment like that, then you got to say that all of your neighbors, one, are more similar to you than not, because they're also attracted to the same thing, right? So you're going to get a lot more people looking for something unique on the onset. And then you're going to get a builder that has almost unlimited options when it comes to design, structure, and architecture in general. So you have 30, 40, 50, however many homes there are in there, people that are all trying to choose something unique. So eventually, what's that street going to look like? You have a builder that allows you to do much more with the front elevations and the rest of the house than anyone else would. And then you have a bunch of people that more likely than not are going to choose something materially different than each other. So over time, that is how the character-based neighborhoods are created. And I would argue the idea of character or the aesthetic of character in a new house is much better than actually needing the house to be 70 years old in order to achieve the character. Because what's going to come with the nice aesthetic is going to old codes, everything smaller. It's weird, right? And you gain like the cool floors and you gain the archways and that kind of thing. But I also think you can feign it with the right design. And just to kind of finish that, like tie a bow on that whole conversation is, again, the reason that you're going after house here, and then secondary to that saying, am I also cool with the location? Am I also good with the rest of the stuff surrounding it? Is because a lot of times these neighborhoods are going to come with another trade-off of being, maybe there's no amenities at all. Maybe the neighbor environment isn't as communal as like going in Del Webb where they're creating it for you with like a lifestyle director and all those kind of things. So you're just saying, I want a nice area. I don't want an old house. I want a new house. I'm cool with this neighborhood and I can get the house exactly what I want. Maybe you can get a casita, you get a veranda, you get some stuff that other builders won't do on top of that. So that's my number 1. Okay, number 2 on the list, we'll call it urban infill one-off / urban infill cul-de-sac. The thing is, if you want a character-based neighborhood in and around the Sarasota area, you could throw Naples, Fort Myers into this as well. 1, they're already built. And 2, they're in the best locations typically. Because you don't come to a town as like the early settler of the area and start on the fringes and build your way in. You start on the coast and build your way out. There's not room to throw a bunch of new construction neighborhoods into the mix. And that's why this is much more of a location conversation versus like the house first. Because a lot of times in this argument I'm about to make, you're taking a calculated sacrifice on the home because you're trying to get yourself into a geography. And then that geography happens to be like where a lot of the character is, because the people that are already in that geography have been there for a long period of time. So one of the ways, and this is the low-hanging fruit one that like probably most people would give you as their sole answer, is urban infill one-offs. This is doing a new construction home on a lot that was already there in a neighborhood that's already existed. And this could have been built in 1980, 1995, whatever, older, 70s, like a lot of these Florida ranch style, but you're gonna do a new construction home in that environment. In a competitive market like Sarasota, the chance you're gonna find like a nice piece of land and you're gonna piece together a build on a contract and not be over 2.5 million is gonna be incredibly rare. The thing is, these all trade behind the scenes. Like these developers are knocking on doors, they're knocking stuff down, they're creating inventory homes and then selling them. So they're gonna create that package for you however they see fit, especially if you see it on Zillow. So a lot of times you're gonna buy this from a builder. The builder already got the land, they already pieced it together, they're building it, and then they're gonna sell it to you as like a resale house, basically. When someone else does that, it comes with a premium. You have goods and bads here, but this is gonna be where you get to the west of Tamiami Trail in Sarasota. This is where Cherokee Park, Bayview, Oyster Bay, Granada, you could get east of the trail, you could get Arlington, all these kind of areas that are in and around downtown Sarasota. This will be the primary market. Builders are also grabbing small like plats of land, and they're building literally a cul-de-sac. Like one street that goes like this. And then they're selling that as a neighborhood. But what that does is it gives you the ability to buy a Pulte house, like on a mix of floor plans, do a pool and do a normal build where you're not floating all the liquidity in advance. You're doing a normal build like you would anywhere. And we see this there's a new neighborhood called Grandura that I don't think they've even officially released prices yet, but I think you're gonna be in like a 700 to 800K base price. I think it's 27 total homes. It's west of I-75. It's stone's throw from like Siesta Key, but it's 27. So you're not just doing some random thing yourself and not sure what to do. We saw this with Fox Trace around the Fruitville area with David Weekley. So I think that's gonna be more interesting too, because these guys are just equipped to do this much better than the layman. If you're trying to navigate it yourself, it's very difficult to even know what to believe and that kind of thing. So this would be another way to go about pairing new construction with character. All right, number 3 is the concept of just having a mixed builder neighborhood. So this is gonna be much more normal, probably a lot more achievable for the majority of folks. The first 2 options I really like on this list, but they're more unique as well. So say there's only like 2 neighborhoods that are doing that small custom and one sells out, and or you get into do urban infill, it just doesn't work from your housing criteria. You could see how it's a square peg in a round hole. If it doesn't work, what do you do? This is going to be a lot more commonplace moving forward, I think. This is just normal new construction neighborhoods. They're probably going to be a little larger on average, maybe 1,000 plus homes that have not a sole builder. More than 3, it would be ideal. There's a community called Palmyra. It's located in that Welland Park, which is south of Sarasota, Welland Park Master Plan Development, and they have a huge array of stacked value as you go throughout because of the builder mix. The highest up there is ICI, which is a custom builder, so you can do pretty much anything, full architectural. You have one right under it that is almost custom but not, called Homes by Town. They only build like 3 active neighborhoods right now in the whole state of Florida, a little bit more boutique. Then you have like guys that like right under that, you have Mattamy in there, MI Homes, Neal Communities is in there, and David Weekley. And then there's different price points, single families, there's like coach townhome environments, this kind of stuff. So when it's all said and done, when this is mature, all of these guys don't own all the lots, they own a portion of them. They're on different streets depending on the mix. There's different sizes of the lots depending on the builder. All of these builders have, even the custom guy, you can do anything you want, but the rest are doing dozens of different floor plans that affect front elevation and the rest of the way the house looks, 2-story, 1-story. You're gonna have a huge variety of demographic that goes and chooses these homes for different reasons, right? You're gonna have empty nesters in here, you're gonna have young professionals, you're gonna have everything, retirees and the like. And then this all comes together because it's more of a normal neighborhood with shared, like larger HOA kind of environment, all this kind of stuff. You're gonna have much nicer amenities. So this is, there's a golf simulator in here. I think there's some sort of food cafe, restaurant situation, a lot of green space. You're gonna have all that kind of stuff you'd want. If you're gonna be in a regular neighborhood and pay an HOA, you want that stuff as well, you should. And it's just, again, it's the variety. If you have a bunch of different people that can choose different things and not one builder owns all the lots, then it's not gonna be 12 floor plans in here, it's gonna be 60. Depending on what people choose. So that is another thing that I think in 10 years from now, when the neighborhood's mature, you will have character. All right, number 4 on the list, we'll call it urban living in the suburbs. The idea here is that occasionally you could find these concepts that builders will put out that are just more unique to a traditional area. Like I've seen David Weekley, a lot of their homes look pretty coastal, normal aesthetic. They'll look very similar to what Neal Communities will build or parts of Homes by West Bay. But then occasionally they'll put stuff out depending on where they're at, in this central living division, and they're just like cooler. It's like lofts, they're long and lean. They'll do like 3-story single families that are more narrow. They'll have 2nd-story living rooms, like rear garages, just this unique concept. And we saw they did this in Payne Park, Payne, right outside of downtown Sarasota. They did this in Emerald Landing up in the Lakewood Ranch area. So most of the things that surround them will be the more normal Florida style homes. And they'll throw something like this if they happen to be in like a cool lake area or near a downtown or like urban Tampa or something like that. I think Coulter is a great example. I always felt like they just did things a little bit differently. I was familiar with them originally because of their Coulter urban divisions. They're heavily involved in a lot of the condominium projects like Beso, the Ritz, branded buildings. I think they did the one up in St. Pete, Solitaire, I think as well. So I like the elegance of that. I thought they carried a lot of that over to a neighborhood called Artistry, and this is in North Sarasota. Cardell went in there a little bit, but it was mainly just Coulter at the beginning, where they would just do like deep setbacks, 4-car garages. It wasn't anything goes. They're not a custom builder, but they would do a lot more. Like their list was just more expansive. Taller ceilings, like it just the aesthetic. They had an in-house designer that was heavily involved, and I just always thought it was a more elegant version of what else you could get. And so I think you could achieve this in small microcosm ways, even if you try to learn this way and you try to identify these little things of just looking for something unique. I mean, the fact of the matter is here is you can say character all you want in Sarasota, Southwest Florida, but unless you want an old house, it's not that. It's going to be master plan suburbs. So this is about finding unique opportunities within an environment where you have a ceiling already, I think, and this would be another way to do it. Okay, my 5th and final point for today's video we'll call master plan surrounding. I think there's a realistic possibility what you're envisioning in your head with this kind of question in mind is not going to be perfect. The town's not really built like that. So it's very possible there's going to be something awkward. You're going to get the house you want, the area you don't want it. It's not going to be perfect. If that's not going to be ideal, then can you piecemeal together most of what you want with the combination of the house and the surrounding area, not one or the other? Take St. Pete, Florida. Pinellas County, Florida is the coastal part of Tampa Bay. Almost no new construction at all. Pockets of urban infill. It's not that kind of town. There's these little borough northeastern neighborhoods, and it's bungalow living. That's what it is. It's historic 1940s, 1950s. And the people that are attracted to that style, not just because it's cool and it's that, but it's actually front porch living. The other people aren't like, covering their face when the neighbors are out there. But the big thing too is it's where it sits. Because you're taking a big sacrifice, right? You're paying a lot of times, it could be $1 million for like 1,500 square feet, right? Because these houses were not big back then. But where does it sit? Maybe you can bike to downtown, the breweries, all that kind of stuff. I think that's a big part of it. And it might be the majority of it. It might be house second. If you come into an area like a Welland Park and you take a new construction version of that and you buy in a normal neighborhood, think of it like Solstice with Toll Brothers or Avelina with Neil or something like that. And that's a pretty normal looking place. But you sit in the Playmore district and you can walk to Cul-de-Sac Park. There's new downtown Welland. A 2-mile lake, you have shops and restaurants. All of that sits in a town where your 4 beaches are 18 minutes away, and it's a historic Venice. So historic downtown Venice is like quaint, it's charming. And so I think all of that, like you could say that's charm, like it's not going to be a perfect science. I like the idea that the combination of things both creates value that didn't exist before, and it also mitigates risk. So it's dividing those two from each other to create a sure thing. And then also it's intention. Because there's not one answer, then I do think you get a variety-based environment. All right, folks, that's a wrap for today's edition of the Florida Relocation Guide. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, my name is Adam Hancock. If you liked today's video or been liking any of the content, please consider subscribing if you've not already done so. Just the best way to see what's coming next. We're going to go most Sundays and Wednesdays, 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern for the balance of the year. Even if you don't watch episodically, this will alert you to the videos that we'll release, and I think we have a lot of great stuff planned for the rest of 2025. Beyond that, one thing I wanted to mention is I have a new channel that is launching. It's called New Home Geek. It is an approach where we're viewing the best way to relocate a lot of times is geography paired with new home construction as a lens. Even if you don't buy a new house, the way to learn an area, the way to navigate it, the way to physically tour it when you get to town, especially in Southwest Florida, new construction is a fantastic example. You could follow one builder of what they do in multiple areas and get an idea of value, style, locational differences, proximity to stuff, and like learn a town really quickly there. It's one of my favorite ways to explain it. This channel allows me to go much deeper in that world than I can do in a more macro environment like I'm speaking on today. So we're going to have breakdowns. We're going to talk about everything. I think it's going to be truly the smartest way to relocate, especially if you're buying new construction. Every single builder, every single neighborhood is going to be broken down. It's going to be high volume in order to do so. Please subscribe to that so that you're alerted of those as well. Of course, if we can assist you in the state of Florida when you come to buying, selling, and or investing, it's not relocation or new construction exclusive. It is just a specialty kind of thing, but we do full-scale residential real estate in kind of a boutique way on the back of this channel. Other than that, thesunshinestateco.com, we have a ton of blog articles, we have relocation guides on there, and a bunch of other random free resources, so check that out. Thank you guys so much for consuming my content. We'll see you in the next one.